Okay, good morning. How are we all, team? I hope you're all well. Hope you've had a good evening last night from when we spoke. Look, I'm just going to always start this way, little couple of moments just to let a few people just join the room. But look, today, day 5 of our Kickstart challenge. We've covered a lot. We've covered identity, we've covered peak states, we've covered commitment and discipline, we've covered the 4 pillars of freedom. We've gone into a lot of different stuff, the need for variety. And ultimately today is going to be about bringing that together and really understanding what this is all for. Because look, I'm a big believer that we have goals. Like I said last night, we have goals, we have a drive, we have a commitment, we have a desire to level up. But ultimately it needs to have a deeper meaning. If we are doing something for the goal of necessarily achieving this, great. But underneath all of that, what's it all for? What's it all for? Why do we want to have X amount in the bank? Why do we want to achieve X status at work? Why do we want to have a fantastic physical body or a fantastic mind state? What is it all for? And that is what we're going to cover today, because a lot of when I work with people, this is how roughly it goes. The first 6 months of the year is all around, I need to find my motivation. I need to find my motivation. Between 6 to 12 months, it's always a case of, I don't feel like I've got any purpose. And you might be able to resonate with that. The first start of the year, people are trying to search, quote, for their motivation. For the second half of the year, people are always trying to find their purpose. And I'm going to tap into this because I think purpose is deeper than motivation, absolutely. But it's interesting how it shifts because, as I say, the start of the year, we're fresh. We're like, yeah, let's go. Why am I not motivated? And that's what we've touched on. But the second half of the year, as I say, we're looking for something a bit deeper now. We're looking for something that's, you know what, I've spent 6, 7, 8 months trying to find my motivation. Why haven't I? For one, maybe I need to have more of a purpose in life. And I hope that makes sense, because I believe that we get a little bit confused around this. And what I'll touch on here in the first slide is that there is a difference between purpose and calling. Purpose and calling. This is where a lot of people, I believe, get a little bit confused, maybe get a little bit unsure on where they're tapping into. Because look, a purpose is something you uncover within. A purpose lives within. A purpose is like emotion. A purpose is like feeling. Let me just let someone in there. There we go. A purpose is like a feeling. You can live with purpose every single day because it's something you uncover. It's an emotion. It's something that you bring up. It's like motivation. It's like confidence. It's like passion. It's something you bring up. Also, exactly that. It's a passion. It's a deep-rooted energy. It's something that's deep in your soul, your purpose. But ultimately, when we say we find it, it's like anything. We don't find our purpose. We uncover it. That's what we're looking to do. And then it's a feeling, emotion, and energy that you use. And I put that in capitals, you use to give your life meaning. Because, as I say, when we get to 6, 7 months into the year and people say things to the extent of, I can't find my purpose, my first thing is aligning them with what their purpose actually is, which is what I'm going to do for you today. Because your purpose is within. Where we get confused is the difference between that and a calling. A calling is something that you discover externally. Your calling is in your passion, in your job, or your calling is in your ability to be a parent or a son or a daughter or an aunt or an uncle. Your calling is in where you feel compelled to act. And your calling is up for you to decide. Does this make sense? A purpose is within, a calling is something where you feel compelled to act. And look, it's a unique and an individual target and goal that you feel compelled and pulled towards, exactly as we have said. And look, this sums it up perfectly. And I urge you to write this down. Hopefully you've got that pen and paper out as always. Your calling is the vehicle to utilize your purpose. Imagine your purpose as the engine. Your purpose is within. Your calling is just the vehicle to move that in the direction it needs to go. And I'll give you a moment with that because it's something I've spoken about previously, but it's something that after the last 4 and plus days that we've had together, is something that I believe we really need to bring together because, as I say, I want us to be goal orientated. I believe in goals. I believe if we have that direction, we know where we're heading. It gives us a route through. But ultimately, I want us to fulfill a need deeper than that. I don't want us to be so driven, so passionate, so motivated that we get there and it's been like, is this all this for? This whole course, this whole 5 days has been about leveling up your life and mindset. And that isn't just some skew with, oh, you know, I'm going to give you a few tools. I know you can feel that from me. Every single day has been something tangible you can put into action. Now I want to serve you deeper. I want to serve you on a level that's of your soul and your spirit, not just your head. Because look, to wrap that up, you live with purpose, you uncover or discover your calling. You live with purpose and you uncover and discover your calling. Purpose, internal. Calling, external. And as I say, I really hope that resonates with a few of you because as we step into this, there's 3 pillars of purpose and we won't go through them all, or we won't go through them all. Wait, where's that gone? There we go. A direction of intention. That's what this whole week's been about. A direction of intention. Having something to aim for, leveling up in a peak state, being committed and disciplined to get there. We've got a direction of intention. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have done these days with me. You wouldn't have been as engaged, as immersed, as involved as you would have been if you didn't have a direction of intention. I'm pretty sure that you know where you're heading in whatever realm it is that you want. But underneath that, there are 2 fundamental pillars that ultimately will give our life so much meaning that it will all come together for us. And that is to grow and to give. And that's what I'm really going to tap into with you today. Okay. But just while we're here on a lighter note, someone mentioned to me about 2 weeks ago now, when I give these sorts of presentations, when I give these sorts of things, why are they always pillars? Why is there always 3 pillars, 3 principles? 4 this, 4 of that, 2 of this, whatever. And I'll tell you for why. Because I believe in simplicity. I believe that we live in a day and age where we're so infatuated in information, it can get lost in the detail. And I believe I go out and search for all that detail, I bring it back and I make it as simple as possible. Because us as humans, we understand simplicity like that. Complexity is the ultimately killer of motivation. When we find something so complex, so God, you need to try and get your head around that. And it's not your key field of expertise, it is the killer of motivation and drive. So this is why, if that was a question of yours over the last couple of days, it is something that I wanted to cover because, as I say, I make everything 3 pillars of this, 4 principles of this, 4 keys to freedom, for example. This is why. Simplicity is the beauty in us putting it into action. So, direction of intention we've covered in so much detail. The first pillar of growth, the first pillar of purpose is that you must grow. You must grow because look, very simply, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I'm not saying that to be morbid. I'm saying that to say that if you look at any area of life, any area of nature, trees, animals, humans, anything in life, if we're not growing, if we're not ultimately blossoming, growing more, we are dying. Anything out there in nature that you see is doing this. It's just sometimes us humans, we like to think that we're a bit of an exception to this rule. And in our human psyche, in our human mind, we believe that, you know what, this doesn't actually apply to me. Maybe not consciously, but we think that we don't have to grow. Remember what I said a couple of days ago, that when we grow, we level up. It gives us something to tap into. It gives us an aim to become something more. That's what growing allows us to do. When we grow into something more, we level up. We get that freedom within inside us. We get that accomplishment, that fulfillment that you know you've stepped up. When you get a promotion at work, as nice and as brilliant and as commendable it is that you have that promotion at work, the underlying fulfillment comes from, you know, you've stepped up, you know that you've grown. When you go down the gym and for the last couple of weeks and months, you've been squatting, for example, with 30 kilograms on your back, and you break through the 40 kilogram barrier, ultimately, as great as that is, what it represents is growth. And we can do that physically. You see how happy people get in this day and age when they've got physical growth. How about mental, spiritual, emotional growth? And we touched on this without using this language yesterday around ownership and discipline. All that is stepping into growth on a much deeper level. Because look, as I say, it gives us an aim to become something more. And I touched on this a lot. I won't spend too much time now, but I touched on this a lot. Whenever I've done that running, whenever I've stepped into those ultra marathons, whenever I've stepped into doing what I do now with you, if my focus was on preserving, if my focus was on trying to necessarily just keep within and hold at the same level I am, and that's it, I've learned what I've learned, there's no more I can learn now, here's the information, do with it what you will, I'll get so many results. When I can use the information and grow into it, when I can use the different strategies that I've got and grow into my running or grow into my presenting skills, ultimately you want to do it more. You want to do it more because you're giving more and you're growing more. And I really hope that makes sense, because as I said, and I keep coming back to this because I put this on the slide the other day, progress equals happiness. And it should say under this, I haven't put it, but progress equals happiness, growth equals fulfillment. Progress equals happiness, growth equals fulfillment. Because as I say, we can level up so much and level up so much in our head, but ultimately what I want us to do is level up in our soul as well. And that is from maybe doing the things that don't always come so naturally to us. Don't always come the first, I'm not sure. Someone the other day said to me, someone the other day I was having a conversation with, she was a trainer, and she said to me, you know what, if something comes into your mind and your first feeling is not F yes, you shouldn't do it. And I thought about that for a moment, and I was like, to some extent, I can understand where you're coming from. You want to feel that initial burning desire, that burning passion to do it, yes. But knowing what I know and discussing what we've discussed, this 2 million-year-old brain is not here for us to thrive. It's here for us to survive. So I put an analogy to her. I said, she was a lady who didn't live in the UK initially. She was from somewhere in Central Europe. And she said, and I said to her, a couple of years ago, say someone had said to you, I want you to go to London to set up your business. What would your initial reaction have been? And you know, when you say something to someone, you can see the cogs turning in their mind. And the penny dropped for her when she said, and she started laughing. She was like, no, you're right. And I was like, what's that? And she said, you're right. There's no way I would have said F yes at that time. I was like, right. But you have done that. You did do that. And look what's happened to your business since. Because look, growing doesn't always come naturally for the human psyche. It comes naturally in other forms of life. It comes naturally in our growth of our physical body, i.e. through age, but it doesn't come naturally through the human mind. And that's why we need to take control. That's why I say we need to condition, put ourselves in the driving seat. That's what all this whole week has been about. This whole week of you showing up has been about growing. And the main areas of growth are mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Mentally leveling up. You've all done that to a certain extent this week. Spiritually leveling up. Now, I'm not talking about religiously, whatever your religious beliefs are, I'll tell you to practice that more. But I'm talking about spiritually, the need of your spirit, of your soul, what matters to you deep within. And we're going to align that with your calling. Physically, I believe in physical growth, not necessarily building huge muscles, but physical growth in the sense of we need to be moving. We need to be moving. Movement is such a big part of our life, for our mental health, for our mental well-being, for our day-to-day being. we need to be moving, we need to be growing. And then obviously emotionally, I want us to grow emotionally so that we remember the analogy I showed you here. Remember the analogy I showed you with child to adult and then the neural pathways that stay the same? I want us to grow in that area as well. And that's what this week has been. Because when you can understand this, you've got a direction of intention, which I know you all have. You've got the ability to grow. Then all of a sudden, we've got 2 solid pillars. And then we can tap that off with this when we can give. And what I mean by giving is a lot like what I said yesterday in regards to finding a meaning bigger than yourself to get yourself to move into action. When you can contribute to a means bigger than yourself, and what I mean by contribute is that when you can give to someone, something, an organization that means something that's not just going to affect you and your happiness, I promise you, you have mastered one of the underlying keys of life. Because giving, for those of you who have family, for those of you who live with loved ones, for those of you who have that environment, you know as well as I do, the joy, the passion, the deep-rooted fulfillment that we get when we see that person light up from maybe an act that we've done. And that's not coming from a selfish realm, but unless maybe, I don't know, you get a diamond ring for Christmas, ultimately, one of the most beautiful things about Christmas is the giving of the presents that you give to someone, seeing them light up, seeing that person, that dad, that mum, that child, that aunt, that uncle, that cousin, whoever it may be, light up. And when you can contribute to a means bigger than yourself on a consistent basis, and you put these pillars together, you'll never lack purpose. You'll bring purpose in your life. Because I've said this a lot, fulfillment enhances with inclusion. This is what this week's been about. And now you can understand how this week has been structured, because fulfillment will enhance with inclusion. That's why I've made this community the way it is. That's why I want this community to be so powerful and so strong. And for those of you who've been with me previously, you know that I know that you buy into it, and you know why I buy into it so much, because not only can we grow on our own, not only can we give to ourselves so much, but when we can drive someone else, when we can make someone else grow, when we can give to someone else, maybe in a way that they don't even realize, maybe just by posting in the Facebook group, maybe by just speaking on this, in this format, maybe just by doing something that you know levels up, you give to others. But ultimately, when you can consciously give to others, that's where it really comes in. And I've done this for myself, and I'll share this with you, that a couple of years ago, when I was going through the whole process, remember the jar and things like that, and having to give to myself and giving a little bit of time to myself and adding that variety into my life that we touched on yesterday, it was something that I needed to find deeper meaning in my life. I needed to find deeper meaning. I'd been through, to level with you, 7 years previously of things in my family life that had pretty much come to a head. There'd been things obviously in my professional career that had happened. There'd been things in my personal life with my old partner that had ultimately come to a head as well. And it was all around this moment. And I needed to find deeper meaning. And for me, I won't come through this process. And this was a process that I thought about and I constructed myself. And it was something that, where do I personally want to give? Where do I personally want to give to people? And how can I do this on a larger, broader societal scale? So I wrote 2 lines, my personal and my societal. And this is something that I still do now. I wrote, what matters to me? How do I believe that I can have an impact? How can I give? Not just in the level of my head, but on the level of my soul. And you can see there, for me, it was about transforming people's lives. Transforming people's lives. I'm not interested in dabbling. I'm not interested in getting mediocre results. I'm interested in transforming, taking from where you are to where you want to go and getting you there. And the way that I love to do that is through the power of the mind. The power of the mind comes into the power of physiology, how you use your body, how you use certain aspects of your life. Ultimately, that is it. And finally, it was through food shopping. And very quickly, I'll share that story with you that lived in a little studio bed place. And for those of you that are not familiar with that, studio bed is essentially a room. That was it. It was a room that was also my kitchen, my living room, and there was a small little side room which was my bedroom, and that was it. The bathroom was in the front room type thing. This is where I lived, and this isn't a sob story. This is just to give you context on this, that there was a time in my life where financially, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, what I put there, I was finished. And food shopping, I would always remember 6:45 at Asda is when the yellow stickers come out, and the yellow stickers meant it was clearance, it was sale. So that is where I would be there. I would go to Asda for 6:45 to make sure I had the first pickings of what was available. And the reason I share this story with you is that I'm fortunate that I'm not in that position now where I'm so pressured to have to make sure that I'm there for yellow stickers. I'll sometimes still occasionally pick them up, but it was something that mattered to me so much. So now I'll make it a part of my personal giving, not in a way that I'm giving for expectation, but in a way that I understand what it feels like to feel lack in that area, to feel like, am I going to be able to have dinner this evening? That's not meant to be extreme here. And I want to put this into context. There are people so much harder out than me in the world. There are people that are out there in the world that lived to this through years and years and years. And it's something that I'm extremely passionate about myself. And as you can see on the societal side of things, it is something that I give to as well. But in my context in life at that time, it was enough to me to drive into action. It's something I do now. And the reason I go into detail a little bit here with you is that through personal and societal giving, and societal, just to touch on that, that is through my charitable work, what I am passionate about, not what I believe that society would appreciate. That's powerful. Been there, done that. Huge motivation for paying it forward. Perfect. Good on you, Sabina. Really do commend you for that, because look, when we talk about charitable work, sometimes I know people that will have money come out of their bank account each month, which is great. And they'll serve a charity in that. But ultimately, it doesn't actually ignite them. And I'm not saying that from a selfish point of view, but if I was to tap into charitable work, that I'm going to give a service, I'm going to give my time and I want to add value, but ultimately, I'm not feeling like it really drives me and it's a real passion to be there. I'm ultimately doing those people who I'm serving a disservice. I'm ultimately giving those people a disservice because haven't got someone there who wants to be fully immersed in it. Now, the reason I want to level with that and make sure that's the case, I'm not saying that if you're contributing each month to a certain cause that isn't worthy. Of course, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying ultimately, when we want this fulfillment for ourselves and we really want to radiate that onto others, in a societal context, when we can give to a charity or give to something that really burns us up inside and really gives us that flame deep within our soul, people feel that. People feel that, I promise you. I'd probably go out on a limb and say, you can feel me this week. You know this is my mission in life. You know this is what I'm here to do. You know, you can feel how passionate I am about what I do. I'm not saying this is charitable work, by the way, but what I am saying is that you can feel it from me. People can feel what's real. People can feel what's inauthentic. That's why we live in a day and age of social media these days, and it can get a little bit, where's the line here? You can feel what's real, and the same goes for here. And I would encourage you to find what's real. Find what's real and give on such a deep level in that area. That might be something as simple as saying hello in the morning to a colleague or saying hello in the morning to workmates. That might be as simple as giving your partner a kiss on the forehead or your mum or dad a kiss on the forehead. Because ultimately, when you can give truly, give deeply, you can grow in that area. This is where it all comes to a head, because look, these are the keys to fulfillment. Sabine, let me read that. It can come from recognizing privilege. I mentor young people because I had a family that invested hugely in time and resources in my education, which is a huge privilege that not everyone has access to. Exactly. Understanding where you are. And as I say, I commend you again for that, Sabine, and thank you for speaking, because that is something that matters to you. That is something that really you understand how privileged, if you don't mind me paraphrasing for you, you understand how privileged you are to be in that situation, and then you pave that forward. And then you want to give that forward to whoever else you can help. So yeah, absolutely in agreement with you. Because look, this is the pyramid of purpose. And the pyramid of purpose says that we have a direction of intention as our base at the bottom there. On the core level, this is for fulfillment here. We're not talking about, I don't want this to be confused with what we spoke about on previous days about us leveling up and about us doing certain things. This is about intent. This is about fulfillment on a deep level in our spirit, in our soul. The foundation of that is to give. I promise, if you give, you'll never live in lack. I live by a saying, lead with love and you will never live in lack. Lead with love and you will never live in lack. And a big part of that comes through giving. I'm not talking about people pleasing. I'm talking about giving honestly, earnestly, passionately. Because when we do that, and we do that without expectation, we set a foundation for us. From there, where can we grow? And if we can do this in our own life, in the four main areas, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, we can grow in those areas. Then all of a sudden, we're starting to get a little bit more of this pyramid together. And on top there, when you can direct that to a calling of your choosing, I'll put that in underlined capital letters, exclamation marks, of your calling, no one else's. This is where you have that never-ending fulfillment, and you hear people finally say, I think I found my purpose. But all this time, your purpose has lived within. And I really hope that is really powerful for you, because your purpose lives within. We give, we grow, we channel that into in a direction of our intention. That happens to be what we have as our calling. I found my purpose. Now you can do this on so many scales. You can do this through giving in a lot of different areas, and you can grow in a lot of different areas. And I promise you will never lack purpose. My calling is to do what I do here. Through them personal and societal things, this is what I feel my calling is. My calling is to be here and to serve you people, to serve people who want to become more, want to achieve more, want to level up in whatever way. It is my mission in life. I've determined that. No one else. And through that, and through my earnestly and honestly giving to you what I do, that's what gives my life so much fulfillment. If I ever chose to stop giving, if I ever chose to stop growing, this what I do here wouldn't be nowhere near as fulfilled. This wouldn't be nowhere near as momentous to me as well as anyone else. So it's a constant leveling up process. And to put that into context, your fulfillment in life is always in direct proportion to how much you are willing to grow and willing to give. If you're willing to give on a level that doesn't just satisfy your head, but satisfies your soul, you'll feel so much. When you're willing to grow on a level that doesn't just make you feel like, oh, you know what, I've done okay there, but it really makes you step out, really makes you show up, really makes you step up, you'll feel a lot deeper. And then ultimately, when you can direct that into something that matters to you, your calling. And yes, you can have more than one calling. We don't just all have this one calling in life. You could have a calling to be a parent. You could have a calling to serve in your community. You could have a calling to serve in your charitable work. You could have a call to serve younger people, as Sabina touched on. There is multiple ways you can have a calling, but underneath that, if you're giving earnestly and you're growing, that is where this passion comes from. Because look, I will have around with this. All of these 5 days that we have touched on, and Sunday when we come back and we bring all of this together and we really bring it into a nice, succinct way forward for you. Everything has been about these things. It's been about how can you give to yourself? How can you grow yourself? How can you have that motivation, that direction? And what this week has been is an immersive